Welcome. I would like to welcome you all experts, seniors off the dice, on the dice, and viewing on YouTube. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Independent Research Ethics Society, Imami, Jhandu, Ayush Darpan Foundation, and Vishwa Ayurved Parshad. In the negativity of Corona, in this pandemic, we have started this web series to overcome that and to spread the positivity amongst the society. We are contributing to the society by generating positive knowledge, sharing positive knowledge by the experts on the topic which is relevant to the day celebrated by UNO, WHO, and other reputed organizations. In addition to that, Ayush Samriddhi normal webinar series, we have started this global Ayush series involving all experts from all over the globe, one by one, with your references, with your guidances. I am seeking guidance from every expert that please recommend us names from every country from where we can invite them, we can provide them platform, and we will have the knowledge of scope and practice of our Ayurveda in their country. So I would like to welcome you all again, sir. And now for inauguration, I would like to welcome Dr. S. Ajit Singh ji, our senior. He is an Ayurvedacharya, a graduate of Government Ayurvedic Medical College, University of Patiala. In 1907, he set up the Planet Ayurved Wellness and Spa Center in Auckland, New Zealand, where Ayurvedic wellness package, consultation, Panchkarm programs are offered. He is very instrumental in getting Ayurvedic qualifications approved in Australia and New Zealand, and as a result, these are only two countries outside India where government approved Ayurvedic qualifications are offered to students. In 2000, he also established the Australian Institute of Ayurvedic Studies in Australia and New Zealand, where he has groomed up numerous students in Ayurveda. He is currently CEO of the International Council of Ayurvedic Medicine, INC, an organization established to standardize and streamline the educational, teaching, and regulatory standards, as he was talking just before, world outside of India. So he is also advisor of APNA and recently been appointed to steering committee of the International Ayurveda Alliance, an international organization established by Ayush to promote Ayurveda and to establish standards for its teaching and practice around the world. So, introducing him is just like that we are showing a small lamp to the sun. So I don't want to make this mischief in front of him. He is very senior. He is educationalist, clinician, and a reputed name in Australia and New Zealand. I would like to welcome him with regards for his inaugural speech to create positivity amongst the Indian society and society of the world regarding his scope and practice in New Zealand.
डॉक्टर साहब अनम्यूट करिए.
Now it is audible.
Yes, yes.
First of all, my regards to everyone who is present on this platform today and the effort made by Dr. Pavanji from India and with the guidance of Madanji from Cambridge, the brain behind such subject to bring Ayurveda together and taking this opportunity to share with all of you the scope of Ayurveda and scope of practice in this part of the world. Today I'm talking for New Zealand because my home is in two countries, New Zealand and Australia. So my name come up in those two countries, but today I will focus on New Zealand. As New Zealand we talk about, I came in this country in 1995, and since then, we, from the very first day, our focus was to talk about how we can set up practice of Ayurveda. But when I came here, no one was able to understand what Ayurveda is. That was the situation at that time. New Zealand is in a small country, but one of the very beautiful country. I'm sure many of you must be very well aware of that. But with the grace of our many learned yoga scholars, yoga has taken a lead in bringing our Vedic philosophies in this Western world. And that's how people were somehow aware about yoga and have heard of Ayurveda. But what Ayurveda offered, that was a little bit foreign to them. Many were still in that hope that Ayurveda relate with some herbs and other things. But the biggest concern, and it is still a concern, that majority of public as well as officials in these countries and then our medical society community, they see Ayurveda in the light of heavy metals and all our arsenic and other heavy metals toxicity in whatever Ayurveda talk about. So it was a challenge from the very beginning. But before I get into challenges, which I'm sure every country, wherever we are taking up Ayurveda, are facing, but I will take up first of all the positive aspect with grace of Lord Dhanvantri and the effort from our seniors. I was instrumental with the support of many people who were dedicated and committed to this science, and one of them is sitting in this platform, Michael McDonald, who before even I came in this country, he's from Australia, but he for the last 20 years is in New Zealand practicing and managing the Planet Ayurveda practice, our platform. He was very much committed and dedicated to Vedic philosophy. And with the support of people like him, I will say that I'm very fortunate to share on this platform also that Australia and New Zealand are our two countries where Ayush practitioner can land and start practicing from the next day. This was a huge effort, and our commitment was that how we can bring respect to system, but not only to the system, those who are practicing this system also. Because I'm sure many of you must be very well aware, in any other part of the world, including USA, Ayush Ayurvedic doctors are not directly allowed to practice Ayurveda. So that was a huge achievement for us. And then at the same time, it took a lot of effort and time, but we were able to get two national qualifications approved in New Zealand, and same happened in Australia. And that is where those courses are taught now in different PTEs and RTOs. And now these courses, even though they are taught, because in New Zealand as well as in Australia, I won't bring Australia too much today because we will be talking about Australia later on. In New Zealand, Ayurveda comes under complementary medicine and is a self-regulatory body. So when we say self-regulatory body, even though those two qualifications are approved at a national level, but still anyone can come and start practicing Ayurveda in this country, as we have in many other. But what disadvantage that bring to us? Disadvantage is that as long as everything is going fine, no one is worried. But if something goes wrong, the name of Ayurveda comes up, and that's where it affects everyone, Ayurvedic community, Ayurvedic name, and our country's name from where Ayurveda originated. So that difficulty is something which I personally feel that Pavanji has taken up such an initiative to talk about the state of Ayurveda in various countries. Later on, if this issue can also be taken up, that how we can bring in a one common platform, organization, association, whatever name can be given, where we can have uniform standards for teaching, uniform standards of practice, and then the qualities product. So these are the three main issues which relate with Ayurveda all over the world, including New Zealand. As far as the practice part goes, what are the scope of practice? Scope of practice of Ayurveda is not about using herbs here. People are not interested in using herbs. People are more interested into a holistic approach of what Ayurveda is known for, what Ayurveda can offer. And that holistic approach is at a physical level, mental level, emotional level, and that well-being, how that is imparted by our practitioners in this part of the world. And in those components, the most important component which is forgotten all over the world, including India. My apologies to my seniors who are here from India, that what we are forgetting today is our Dincharya and Ritucharya's principles to be incorporated in our practice, which we call our daily routines and regimes. Because Ayurveda is known for empowering an individual who come and want to follow Ayurvedic principle. But how that individual can be empowered is only because of the daily and seasonal routines understanding. That how those daily and seasonal routines can play a huge role in dealing with the various ailments, whether it is a simple cough and cold or whether it is serious autoimmune disorders. These our daily and seasonal routines play a big role. But unfortunately, Ayurvedic practice is becoming like any other modalities practice where focus is only selling the products. Products play a role, we never have to say no, but our focus is in New Zealand and Australia to our practitioner, giving them the understanding that how a program is created for a client in which prime focus will be on the all the daily routines and regimes which he or she has to incorporate. And that is not just giving them that, okay, wake up in the Brahma Muhurta, but with a logic and reason that how this particular regime is going to benefit in your condition, in your imbalances, what you are suffering from. And once our practitioners are able to correlate those imbalances with each of the daily routines, then the practitioner feel empowered. Client feel empowered, client feel involved that I can play a role in my well-being and not have to rely on someone else. So this is the one part. And then the focus comes up on our most important component, which I'm sure all of you are well aware and well accepting. This component is related with the diet, compatibility and incompatibility of the various food items. Now, in relation to, again, which I would like to share here very humbly, our focus is through our institute, through our association in New Zealand and then Australia, to make our practitioner to follow only traditional Ayurveda. I make them always understand that modifying Ayurveda for the need of one class or the other is not what Ayurveda is. And we all have seen what happened to yoga. Now there are hundreds of branches of yoga, including the naked yoga also and the rock yoga also. And I hope with the support of all of you, we will be able to stop such a misuse of Ayurveda. Because if today we look at the present situation of this COVID, this has opened the eyes of the whole world that if there is one solution for surviving, that solution is well-being which lasts. And what well-being will last? Which has a complete approach to well-being and which has its simple understanding, creating that awareness for those people who out in the society are the sufferer today from this COVID-19 sort of pandemic. But as we all understand, this is not the end. This is just the start of such mistake of intellect by our human beings, which is coming to now extreme. And I'm sure we might be able to see another such pandemic in our another 25, 30 years. So what this experience of unfortunate situation has given to the rest of the world and to the whole bigger community is living with awareness so that each individual can boost their immunity. And immunity is not something it can come up in the pills, which Ayurveda talk about. Immunity is how you're going to build with your own effort your stability at each level. And again, even though I agree, again, the dominance of drug mafia has taken over this pandemic, and has led towards getting into vaccines and other, and not any government has actively able to look at those options, that what are the ways to boost one's immune system. And in reality, if anyone, even in India, we know, yes, in India, a bit and here and there, our various government, various hospital has come up forward and dealing with the pandemic, dealing with the COVID cases. But reality is also there that officially Ayush department, Ayush could not take the lead of dealing with the COVID cases. So that is something not in a part of our discussion here. What I'm sharing is Ayurveda has that hope for world, that how we can give them in a system which can improve their well-being, which can help them for preventions of such pandemics with a much more confidence. But from our perspective in New Zealand, through our students, through our practitioners, we are empowering them that how they can share such message. And that's where that message comes up when we are asking them to improve their diet and lifestyle. And diet, as I again share, not just based on any limited understanding that you are now having a wheat allergies, or you have a nightshade allergies, or you have a dairy allergies. That is not the concept, because in Ayurveda, when we look at nutrition, again, Har Vidhi Vidhan is our main principle of nutrition, and that's what we try to share with our all clients, that food is not just selecting right amount of fat, carb, and other things, but giving them that understanding that how you can make food as medicine, which we all understand nowadays, that we are what we eat. But that principle is given to us by Charka and Ashtanga Hridaya very clearly, that making food as medicine is our goal. And then, yes, herbs and the products will come up. So when it comes to the product part now, I would like to share, and Pavanji, we would like you to take lead in the same way. Standardization of the product is a big challenge for us. Now, in New Zealand, our products come under what we call as a natural health supplements. But the natural health supplement, again, yes, we can use in our practices, and people who have a bit of understanding on herbs from their own experience, their own researches, they are able to use Ayurvedic herbs, either complex preparations or single herbs preparations. But on an official level, these all products are not allowed to be used in this country. And again, because we are very small number of Ayurvedic practitioners in New Zealand, being in a small country, but still we are a bit behind as compared to even Australia, where Ayurveda is becoming so. But saying so, Ayurvedic herbs and Ayurvedic products can be used by various naturopath, because naturopathy is a quite big practice in this part of the world, and then the herbalists are there who use herbs and other things. But because they all are so much scared of Ayurvedic herbs on the name of heavy metals and impurities, no matter at whatever platform we talk about, we always have tried to write to various ministers, MPs, and even our these High Commission office in Wellington. But unfortunately, we don't get that kind of official support. Now, I agree with Madanji. His view is that we should not involve government officials, but I somehow disagree here because when we have to talk to the officials, whether it is the health department, health ministry, or like that, they listen to the associations or they listen to the representative, but only on a lip service. There is no action from them until these things get taken by the high officials. Along with our effort at a ground level, we need our Indian government, we need our Ayush department to step in so that they can make these departments, whether it is MAF in New Zealand or TGA in Australia, and give them the understanding that how these Ayurvedic products are made and what are their efficacies. Again, standardizations. Those all has to be somehow coming from the officials level. And then my suggestion is, Pavanji, through your channel and through your platform, and as well as in person, to pass on this message to our big companies like Jandu, Vedenath, and Dabur and others to come forward and look at the bigger market. And to look at the bigger market, they must come up with a plan that how there can be standardization of those products, how each product, not from one company or the other, each product can give the confidence to the end user. And then all the medical doctors, all the officials, if they can approve and get the confidence about Ayurvedic products, those products can be then used more effectively by the public. And now I'm sure all of you have seen ashwagandha, shatavari, brahmi. These are some of the common herbs which are becoming more and more popular around the world. And even big herbal companies are now taking up these herbs and trying to put them into capsule forms and like that. But still, as we all know from Ayurvedic Materia Medica and Dravya Guna, the synergy of the various complex preparations are more effective because when we talk about dealing with a serious ailment, while even Ayurveda is considered as a more lifestyle related ailment or other component in this part of the world, but still there are serious ailments where Ayurveda can play in a huge role because of its bigger picture. And especially in the mental health, Ayurveda has a big role to play. And mental health, as we all know, is becoming a big issue. Even in New Zealand, it's a big concern. But from our own effort, we are a very limited resources, but and limited voice to raise this point. But we keep doing that, and these are the few opportunities for us that we are able to get Ayurvedic practice here without any hesitation. At the same time, availability of the herbs is still there, but now more and more restrictions are coming up. There are so many Ayurvedic herbs which are not approved in this part of the world, which are very essential. Say, for example, vacha or even bamboo, our which we talk about in the Sitopaladi churna. We have one of our ingredient that is not approved in these countries. So that even our Sarpagandha is not approved. So that restrict the practitioner even to use those single herbs in the practice. And that's where I think our effort has to be collective effort. after you gather the information about the states of practice and the scope of practice in the rest of the world, what your efforts are doing. But if this can be brought together, then and common difficulties and common opportunities of this whole Western world, if we talk about, and bring them together and put on a common platform along with local representatives as well as from the officials level, as the other day from the UK, Amarjit Bharmaji has given us very clear vision that you need to involve your political voice in a more strong way, as they have done in the House of Lords and brought up such a big support for um, these complementary medicine, including Ayurveda. So I think we will be doing the same in our New Zealand and then Australia. But at the same time, we need support for all of you. My biggest humble request will be to Madanji and Pavanji and seniors to motivate Ayush more on those lines, that they must come forward and listen to the problems of each country and actively get involved in sorting out with the officials that how they can make these things work. That is the only way that Ayurveda can come into the mainstream. You might say that, look, this might not be possible. This is only in each country's own problem. But I feel that on an official level, this can be done and it can make people's life more easy, where they all looking for now with a hope towards Ayurveda, that Ayurveda can provide them some options, some solution for their well-being. And my request to all of us is that we don't need to let them feel disappointed. If they have the hope, we need to keep enkindling that hope and in a right way. And right way is only as long as Ayurveda is practiced in its traditional principles and with the support from some official, if we can get it recognized as one modality which can be accepted by local authorities, that is what we will see. And I'm hopeful all of others practitioners who are present from New Zealand, they will also share their view and we can look into that. With all, I will just thanks again, Pavanji, for your effort to give us the opportunity to share with you about New Zealand's state of Ayurveda practice as well as the product.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Excellent. You have covered every issue of Ayurveda in your country. Excellent. Salute to you, sir. No doubt. So I would like to invite our next speaker, Madam Honor Stratton Honor, Ayurvedic physician in New Zealand. Kindly unmute yourself and inspire us with your experiences, your practices, and your knowledge about Ayurveda, how we can inspire our Ayurvedic society regarding scope and practice of Ayurveda in New Zealand. Welcome, madam.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Dr. Ajit, for inviting me here. Yeah, my name is Honor Stratton, and I'm practicing Ayurveda here in New Zealand, and I'm also a yoga teacher.
Slight louder, please. Slight louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I qualified in 2016, and I came to adopt Dr. Ajit initially 8 years ago with a classic Vata imbalance. I was experiencing bloating and pain, inflammation in my joints. My hair was falling out. My menstrual cycles had stopped. So I also had anxiety, depression. I was really confused and overwhelmed. And I'd seen a lot of doctors. I'd seen a lot of specialists. I'd been prescribed a lot of medication. Some of the medications worked, some didn't, some made things even worse for me. So I really understand that health can be the difference between life exploding with fulfillment or feeling confused and frustrated and burned out. And at that time, I was following the current Western trend of health with a focus on raw food and smoothies and salads. I'm a mother, so at the time I was working full time. I was juggling a nuclear family, like so many other women in our culture, and I wasn't eating properly. I was snacking, I was grabbing food on the run. I had no idea that this was causing the problem. And plus, I was receiving consistent reminders from the outside world with comments like, wow, Oni, you've lost so much weight, you look fabulous. And yet on the inside, I felt far from fabulous. And I was prescribed antidepressants. And at that point, when I was prescribed antidepressants, I decided I'd had enough and I wanted to find a natural solution. And I was lucky enough to come across Dr. Ajit. And I remember in my first consultation with Dr. Ajit, and we talked and he took my pulse and he looked at me and he said, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just eating the wrong food. And to be honest, I didn't believe him. But within a couple of weeks, I felt like myself again. And that was a huge revelation to me. That was so empowering to me. And I now focus on helping women heal gas, bloating, constipation with Ayurveda. And I can help at my level, I can help women online. I help women with food, with lifestyle, with dinacharya. Dinacharya is huge. It plays a huge role in women's health. And I believe that emotional support is huge here. I work with women over 12 weeks. I have a lot more success this way than in just a one-on-one consultation. So I support them over 12 weeks so that they don't go back to their bad habits. My experience is that the wellness industry, not just in New Zealand, but globally, is booming. A landmark study recently was released. It revealed that the global wellness market is now worth $4.2 trillion, which is growing fast, twice as fast as global economic growth. And I'm talking about this because I'm really on board with this industry. It's a really powerful shift we're experiencing into natural health and well-being. It's a more holistic way of being. It's a trend. It's not a fad. It's becoming more of a way of life for people. And this is amazing. But is it translating into more and more health for more and more people? Because it's all very well to focus on natural healing, but is it working? I don't think so. More and more people are experiencing anxiety, depression, bloating, gas, food intolerances. Screen time at social media has a lot to answer for because it's pulling people away from the real world. And there is health and well-being, but it's barely touching the surface. And more than ever, I notice people are dealing with gas and bloating and pain and feeling depleted, but not knowing what to do about it. And in the last year, even a deeper shift with COVID-19, which has affected us all. And living on computer screens with a lack of real connection and community, it's had a massive impact on the lives of many. Lockdown is still a reality for many. So it's pulled us away even further from our natural way of living. And people don't know where to turn. And they continue with whatever it is that they're doing and stay in the same cycle, and it doesn't work. So fad diets, superfoods, just as Dr. Ajit was saying, expensive supplements, vitamins, just taking the herbs. And on top of this, prescriptive medicine, pharmaceuticals, looking up the answers on Google. There's so much information. It's so confusing. And, you know, these restrictive diets like keto and paleo, which is so fashionable at the moment, might work for a little bit, but often this isn't for long. And Ayurveda is not basing health and vitality on a fad diet or magic or luck. because it's more than skin deep. It's deeper than herbs, just as Dr. Ajit was saying. It's deeper than diet. It's learning to feel whole again, learning to feel like part of nature again. And I believe that it works not just physically, but on a deeper level that we as human beings need for our evolvement as spiritual beings, learning to live a human existence. So my experience of the world is that we're in this deep vata pitta imbalance where fear mixed with anger is so volatile, a volatile mix of emotions and problems. And we need this sattvic qualities of peace and compassion and living in tune with nature once more, which is what Ayurveda gives us. And when people get this, they're able to shine like a spotlight in the darkness and be a beacon of hope for others. This is why Ayurveda is so important now in our world. And I see it growing. I also see a lot of false information being given out over social media. And I believe that as doctors and practitioners, we have even more of a responsibility to share our knowledge and encourage others towards this more holistic way of being. Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to be here. Namaste.
Excellently. Briefly, you have shared your nice experiences. Glad to listen to you, madam. Now I would like to request Mr. Michael McDonald to inspire us by sharing your views and your experiences regarding scope and practice of Ayurveda in New Zealand. Mr. Michael.
Well, Pavanji, thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to thank you and the Independent Research Ethics Society and the other associations that have brought these webinar series to life. I think it's a wonderful exercise to hear stories from Ayurvedic practitioners from around the world. And I guess our hope is that we will find some common threads running through our experience that we can knit together to help build Ayurveda, to grow it outside its home. So tonight, we're very appreciative that as New Zealand practitioners, we can share our stories. So from New Zealand, may I say, Tanakwe ki Aotearoa, which is welcome to New Zealand in our native language. I have to say, though, firstly, that I'm embarrassed, really, to be speaking in such august company. Really, I'm a child when it comes to the knowledge of Ayurveda. I've been a student of the doctors for now about 20 years. And I've been practicing as an Ayurvedic practitioner for about 15 of those. So I look at this assembled company and the experience of these Ayurvedic doctors, Vaidyas, and professors, and I feel that my voice should hardly be heard in such company. But I hope that I can share a little bit about our experiences in this small part of the world. As Dr. Ajit said, I'm originally from Australia. I became a student of the doctors about 20 years ago. And I was very fortunate at that time to be able to access the study of Ayurveda, because through the work of Dr. Ajit, as he said, Australia and New Zealand are some of the only countries in the world where you can study a government recognized qualification that allows you to practice. So I was quite blessed in that respect. And again, about 15 years ago, I came to New Zealand from Australia to study, to do a one-year internship with Dr. Ajit. And I've stayed for 15 years. I always think it's the longest apprenticeship in history, and perhaps a reflection of my slow learning, but also the fact that Ayurveda has such a vast body of knowledge that I was foolish to think that I could become a competent practitioner in just 1 year. So I base myself now as a practice manager for Planet Ayurveda, where we see clients and provide treatment programs. at the clinic here in Auckland. My choice of staying in New Zealand is because there are a number of opportunities, I think, in this country. And there are some of the things I'd like to share with you tonight. I think maybe someone has mentioned previously, the World Health Organization has recognized that a large number, between 65 and 80% of the world's population, complementary health is their primary source of healthcare. And some of those statistics are reflected in the New Zealand population. The New Zealand population is quite open to complementary health. The last time the question was asked in a national health survey, which was back in the early 2000s, 25% of the population agreed that they had consulted with a complementary health practitioner. So unfortunately now the National Health Survey no longer asks that question, but I would suspect that that number has only grown in that time. The New Zealand population are very open to experiencing and relating to complementary health and embracing it, very much so. We also have the opportunity here where we have a large Indian population. The last census revealed that I think about 8 to 9% of the population have come from the homeland. And so there's a natural affinity with this community to Ayurveda. And that's reflected, I think, in the people that come to our clinic. We have a good mix of Indian people who come because of their knowledge. And also we have quite a large collection of, in Maori, we are called Pakeha, or Europeans that come. And those people who come from a European background have come to Ayurveda, like myself, through their experience of yoga. Through their practice of yoga, we've encountered Ayurveda in its understanding of anatomy and physiology, in its understanding of a worldview and an integration with nature, as Anna said. And so it was a natural progression for me from my practice of yoga to become interested in Ayurveda. And through my meetings with Dr. Ajit, I found how Ayurveda helped my own life, and then that nurtured a desire for me to help other people and share that knowledge. And I do that through working in a clinic here in Auckland. So they're the couple of the opportunities we have locally. In terms of opportunities for Ayurveda, the thing that attracted me, I think, primarily to Ayurveda was its integrative approach to health. It looks not just at the body, but it treats the mind. It recognizes that mind is often the start of the disease process. It also understands that disease isn't just its symptoms, that I guess certainly in Western medicine, the tendency is to treat the symptom. And then we treat the symptom with medicine, which creates other symptoms that we have to have medicines for. Ayurveda takes a step back and looks at the imbalances in the body. Imbalances in the doshas, imbalances in the dhatus, imbalances in the shrotas, and how we can bring the body back to its natural balance, and the understanding that when the body's in balance, those symptoms will disappear. So that's what really attracted me to Ayurveda. It had this integrative approach. There are a number of complementary medicines in the world, but I noticed that they don't have that integrated body of knowledge. So they have to pick little bits from different places to make it work. Ayurveda doesn't need to, because it has all that knowledge in its own corpus. Its approach to the body and anatomy and physiology. It has its own approach to herbology and its own pharmacopoeia. So because all that knowledge is integrated, it works so well together. And I have to say, I see it work every day in the clinic here. So that's one of the opportunities I find in Ayurveda and its contribution to the world and world health. As Dr. Ajit said, we work here in the clinic, again, on an integrated approach. So we're not just prescribing medicines for people. We look at their lifestyle, we look at their diet, and we look at their mental state. And we build a program around that to treat those imbalances. As Dr. Ajit and Anna said, our most important therapeutic tool is Dincharya and Ritucharya. And these are the things that we use to structure a treatment plan to help the body come back to balance. We look at diet. And again, as Anna shared, people in the West think that they're eating well, but they're not. They're not digesting their food properly. Even the best organic food that they eat, if the Agni isn't strong, they're not metabolizing. And instead they're producing ama, which will spread around the body and cause them problems. So we look at their diet and we introduce changes to their diet to restore the Agni's intelligence, to allow the body to digest and extract all the nutrients from the food that they're eating. We also look at some medicines, some therapeutic formulations, some simple herbs and more complex formulations. But again, it's just one part of that integrated approach. And finally, the other limb of that treatment plan are therapeutic treatments. And all of us as practitioners have learnt the benefit of Ayurvedic therapeutic massage with Mama Point, how we can massage Mama Points to help return the body back to balance. We've learnt that the Kadibasti treatments for musculoskeletal problems. And one of the most profound treatments that I've ever experienced, the Shirodhara, to help calm the nervous system and calm the mind. So when people come to the clinic, that's what they receive. They receive a holistic integrated program based on the principles of traditional Ayurveda. And as I said, I see the results of this every day in the clinic. I see the healing that happens, and it humbles me to see that such a profound science can help the community to such an extent. So I feel really blessed to have found Ayurveda for my own life and to share that with the community in New Zealand. So they're the opportunities that I wanted to share with you. Some of the challenges, I think Dr. Ajit's touched on this, and I think Madanji was speaking before the meeting commenced proper. I've studied at an advanced diploma level, so again, I'm not anywhere near the knowledge of many of you as Vaidyas. But we've learnt a number of therapeutic formulations that we have to treat disease. And I guess the challenge and perhaps the frustration is that some of those formulas are inaccessible. So I'm thinking particularly of, say, Arishta and Asava formulations, such powerful formulas that we've learned in our course that they're part of our curriculum in a government-approved course. So we learn about their efficacy, but we are really legally unable to prescribe them because of the regulations that exist around therapeutic or complementary medicines. So that's our challenge, and perhaps the way I see to offer some solutions, because as a practitioner, I've certainly started to look at some of how we might get access to some of these formulations in our practice in New Zealand. And I have to say, the first hurdle that we faced was that for medicines to be sold in New Zealand and of course in Australia, and I think you'll hear more about that later in the week when my Australian brothers and sisters will speak and share their experience. The therapeutic formula has to be prepared in a GMP, a good manufacturing facility. And when we look, sadly, while many of the Ayurvedic manufacturing companies in India have GMP licenses, the Indian GMP certification program isn't recognized internationally. So we were unable really, even at the first hurdle, to get the medicines approved for use here, because the first question that the regulatory bodies ask is the medicine produced in a GMP certified factory? And we said yes, it is, and we provided that information, and they said, well, sorry, we don't recognize that. So there's a challenge there for us. So we've had to go around that a little way by looking for GMP certified companies in Australia and New Zealand. So we've been able to then import herbs and have those capsulated in GMP certified companies to be able to have registered for sale. So that I would offer that as perhaps one of our challenges, and put it to this august group that that even at a factory level, at a business level, or even at a government level, the GMP certification of Ayurvedic manufacturing plants perhaps needs to be looked at, so that we can access many of the wonderful medicines that are available. The next challenge we faced was some of the herbs, as Dr. Ajit mentioned. Some of the herbs, Ayurvedic herbs, aren't approved for use. Sadly, when the herb list was prepared, the Chinese medicine industry was growing at the time. So there are a large number of Chinese herbs on the approved list, but Ayurvedic herbs are few and far between. There are some standard ones. There's ashwagandha, brahmi, we have those available, but even such wonderful herbs as ashoka aren't approved for use in complementary medicines in Australia and New Zealand. So that's our next challenge, is to take some of those herbs and have them listed, or get them listed for approved use in such medicines. And so we've commenced that as associations. We've commenced some of that work to talk to these regulatory bodies in both Australia and New Zealand to have some of these Ayurvedic herbs approved for use. It's a lengthy process, and we have to provide scientific proof that of the efficacy and that the herbs aren't dangerous to use. So we've been starting a process of collecting some of that evidence to submit to get some of those herbs included. But again, it's a costly process for small organisations like our own. So again, there's an opportunity, a challenge for us, an opportunity for some manufacturers and perhaps some government departments in India who might want to consider how assisting to get some of those herbs added to the list of herbs approved for use. So there's certainly, from my limited experience in my practice of Ayurveda, they're two of the challenges that I've experienced. And I would really love to offer my clients some more of the wonderful and powerful Ayurvedic formulations that are available. But again, I'm constrained by those parameters. And I feel one of my contributions to this will be to take that one step forward, to try and get some of these herbs listed, so that the next generation of Ayurvedic practitioners won't have the struggles that we faced in our practice. So, my friends, doctors, professors, I think that's all I would like to share with you this evening. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Again, I hope my small contribution can benefit, and as I said earlier, provide a small thread to this this growing tapestry that we are weaving around the world. And I trust that these seminars are going to bring a lot of us together. And from those stories, we will emerge as a united voice that's going to take Ayurveda forward and grow it further to help us all, not just the community of India, but the community of the whole world. And as Dr. Ajit said, in this current climate, it certainly needs that advice and experience. So, Pawanji, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening, and blessings to you all.
Thank you. Thank you for nice sharing of your experiences and knowledge, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to humbly add something from the India. Now the situation and scenario has been changed. Last from 2 decades, we are focusing on standardization. Like big organization like our Jhandu, we have all equipments and team of a force of 300 plus scientists for standardization, for research, for clinical research, for pharmacological research, for pharmaceutical research. Now we have rules and regulations for that also. Right from standardization, we have Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia, series of books, Ayurvedic formulary, series of books that is generally drafted in consideration of small scale industry where fingerprinting and HPTLC, etc., atomic absorption, X-ray photometry, etc., are not being involved. But big organization, well-developed organization like Jandu has completely focused on these standardizations. So I don't think that if you are visiting, please, I would like to invite you to visit our R&D and our production system here in India. I don't think then their revalidation or re-standardization of project will be there, number one. Number two, misconfusions were created by extreme dignitaries, Robert's efforts, like scientists, that our Ayurvedic medicines has so many metals, heavy metals, mercury, etc., etc. But we are taking care of it at our end at the time of manufacturing. After standardization, we are leaving our products to the market. So there should not be any misconception about these heavy metals or any standardization process, number one. For researches also, we have now started even 10 days before our ministry has launched CTRI portal for Ayush data. This was the new invention of the government. Before that, for clinical research, ASU guidelines are also there, like GCP. So we are following those guidelines. Generally, researchers also, and now they are bound to register their trials in CTRI register after having approval from independent ethics committee constituted under the law and provisions of CDSCO or New Drug and Trial Rules 2019. So now we have a efficient administrative policies, strategies, and infrastructure to develop and generate and create various clinical researches, various standardization processes, SOP for clinical researches. Now various CROs are also there. In our India, CRO business has also been promoted within these 20 years because the law has been focusing on the standardization and clinical evidence of the medicine before launching. So that is a good sign for Ayurvedic industry also. I expect more developments also. It is very true, sir. I am humbly agreed with Dr. Ajit Singh's views. I have seen in their his CV also, that he is trying to constitute a federation of Ayurvedic education, teaching, and research men focused on that. So I welcome him and I assure him for our support in his holy aim. Definitely. Please support us by blessings with your resources in other countries also, as we have to take this baton to minimum 50 country in initial stretch. Today is our New Zealand webinar with blessings of Dr. Ajit Singh ji and other doctors. For Australia, we are conducting webinar on 5th, and for Canada, definitely on 6th. And on 7th, a unique webinar will be there, natural cloths with herbal touch. So Ayurvedic cloths, Ayurvedic dyeing, organic dyeing, experts will be sharing their knowledge about Ayurvedic cloths and herbal dyeing, organic dyeing, what they are doing and how they are innovative for that. So I would like to welcome now Professor Kamlesh Kumar Sharma ji and then Professor Madan Thangavelu ji for his blessings. Professor Kamlesh Kumar Sharma ji.
धन्यवाद डॉक्टर पवन जी।
He is ex-professor,
बहुत
dean, head of the department. Means this is
webinars के
I mischief to introduce him, but he is dignitary of Ayurveda from India.
is more than sufficient. Thank you. तो आज की इस वेबिनार में मुझे ध्यान आ रहा है डॉक्टर अजीत सिंह जी, शायद आपको भी ध्यान होगा, 2-3 साल पहले सेंट्रल काउंसिल ऑफ इंडियन मेडिसिन ने एक संसार भर में जो आयुर्वेदिक प्रैक्टिशनर्स हैं उनकी कॉन्फ्रेंस दिल्ली में की थी। अगर मैं सही हूं तो शायद आप थे उसमें। अपना सीधा प्रत्यक्ष इंटरेक्शन तो नहीं हुआ, लेकिन आप उसमें आए थे। तो बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से ये इनिशिएशन लिया पवन जी ने, और संसार भर के अलग अलग देशों में आयुर्वेद के एम्बेसडर्स हैं, सारे के सारे एम्बेसडर्स, वो वहाँ क्या महसूस कर रहे हैं, वहाँ के अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्या है, वहाँ के चैलेंजेस क्या है, वहाँ का एटमॉस्फेयर कैसा है, इन सब बातों को जब हम साझा करेंगे तो हमारी बेस तो हमारी जड़ें तो भारत से ही हैं। तो कम से कम संसार भर में इन सारे चैलेंजेस को हम इकट्ठा करके यहाँ कम्युनिटी लेवल पर, गवर्नमेंट लेवल पर, फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्री के लेवल पर, ट्रेड मिनिस्ट्री के लेवल पर कहाँ क्या कुछ हो सकता है। तो जैसा पवन जी ने कहा भी कि एक स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन का काम जो पिछले 2 दशक में भारत में हो रहा है, अच्छे स्तरीय आयुर्वेदिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनीज बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही हैं, और अगर अलग अलग देशों की अथॉरिटीज के सामने इन सब चीजों को रखा जाए तो शायद ये जो एक चेक लगा हुआ वहां, इससे मुक्ति मिल सकती है, और आयुर्वेदिक सॉफ्ट पावर के नाते वहां एस्टेब्लिश हो सकता है। और इसके नाते आप लोगों के साथ जो सीधे सीधे वहां काम कर रहे हैं, क्या चैलेंजेस आपको वहां लग रहा है, अथॉरिटीज के लेवल पर, कम्युनिटी के लेवल पर, सोसाइटी के लेवल पर, रूल्स रेगुलेशंस और रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज के आधार पर क्या आपको लगता है ऐसी बातें जब साझा होंगी यहाँ, मुझे लगता है कि इन सब वेबिनार्स की रिपोर्टिंग जब हम अथॉरिटीज यानी खासतौर से आयुष मिनिस्ट्री के सामने रखेंगे, आयुष मिनिस्ट्री इन सब चीजों को कंपाइल करके इनको फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्री के साथ किन बातों को करना है, ट्रेड एंड इंडस्ट्री के साथ किन बातों को साझा करके क्या एक वे आउट निकालना हो, तो शायद हम केवल इंडिविजुअल इंटरेस्ट में नहीं, हम केवल अपनी साइंस के इंटरेस्ट में भी नहीं, और केवल अपने देश के इंटरेस्ट में भी नहीं, हम पूरे ग्लोब, पूरे संसार के इंटरेस्ट में, जब हम प्रणवंतो विश्व आर्यम, सारे संसार को हम आर्य श्रेष्ठ बनाना चाहते हैं, सारे संसार को जब हम निरोगी बनाना चाहते हैं, तो उसके लिए जो एक माध्यम आयुर्वेद हमारे पास है, इसके माध्यम से हम ये एक गोल अचीव कर सकते हैं। आप लोग संसार भर के अलग अलग देशों में अलग अलग परिस्थितियों में वहाँ की परिस्थितियों को देखकर ये सब जो काम कर रहे हैं, निश्चित रूप से बहुत ही प्रशंसनीय है। और मैं तो कहता हूँ कि हमारे आयुर्वेद के आप राजदूत हैं, वहाँ एम्बेसडर्स हैं सारे वहाँ। लेकिन वहां को आप लोगों को जो दिक्कतें आ रही हैं यहाँ शासन के स्तर पर, उनमें क्या क्या अनुकूलताएं हम पैदा कर सकते हैं। दैवयोग से अच्छी बात यह है कि इस समय भारत की स्थिति विश्व मंच पर भी दिनों दिन अच्छी होती जा रही है। इसका लाभ वहां पर जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज के माध्यम से, इसको हम कुछ और अधिक ठीक कर सकेंगे। तो मुझे लगता है कि हम जो स्वास्थ्य की रक्षा वाला जो प्रथम प्रयोजन है, इसका डॉक्टर अजीत सिंह जी ने भी उल्लेख किया, ये इसके नाते, और बच्चों की स्वयं एक स्वस्थ व्रत का ही व्यक्ति हूँ, और इसलिए हम ऐसा बहुत कुछ इन छोटे छोटे प्रयासों के माध्यम से बड़े बड़े काम करने में समर्थ हो पाएंगे। ऐसे मुझे लगता है पवन जी को मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ, और डॉक्टर अजीत सिंह जी से मैं वादा भी करता हूँ कि जो स्थितियां सामान्य होती है, मैं मेरा पहला प्रवास न्यूजीलैंड में ही करने वाला हूँ, तब आपसे भेंट करूंगा। मदन संगावेलू जी हैं, विष्णु प्रसाद जी हैं, और बहुत सीनियर पर्सनल्स यहाँ हैं इस वेबिनार में जुड़े हुए हैं। मैं उन सबको हार्दिक धन्यवाद देते हुए, मुझे ये बार बार आप लोगों के साथ तुच्छ बुद्धि वाले को भी मौका देते हैं पवन जी, आप सबका आभार मानते हुए अपनी बात को पूरी करता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Now I would like, thank you for your blessing, sir. Now I would like to request Professor Madan Thangvelu, sir. Professor Madan Thangvelu ji.
Please unmute.
Namaskar. I hope you can hear me. Sharmaji, Kamleshji, Namaskar. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so happy to be here, just sharing a few minutes now. Ajit ji and I, we have known for many years, and we have interacted over many years, and I'm very familiar with all the amazing work that he has done and the benefits he's offered for many individuals in Australia and New Zealand. And so lovely to have both Honor and Michael here with us as evidence that this works. So number one, starting with what Ajit ji said, I feel we have to come up with some new approaches. We've tried in the past several things, starting at a time when we didn't have this kind of facility, where we could interact with people so openly and so freely. So what COVID has permitted is this kind of a dialogue. A lot of the groundwork on those early discussions can now be refined, and we can repeat many of these things. We can come together, discuss things, and clarify things. And this was the comment I made in terms of when is it correct to get the governments involved? What has happened till now is that we've brought the governments in too early. And when governments dialogue, what generally happens is some person from, generally it's the interaction between the Ministry of External Affairs in India with the ministries abroad in whichever country, and it's at that level the initial interaction happens, and everything else is in the form of documents which may never be able to convey the completeness of the kind of things we are discussing here, the kind of sentiments we are sharing here. And we are now in a position to come together, discuss things, and refine our requests. So what Professor Kamlesh Sharmaji just mentioned, he presented in Hindi, so Honor and Michael, you missed out on it. I'm assuming you are not fluent in Hindi, but in case you are, my apologies, but in case you missed out, what Kamleshji was saying is that give us, in terms of us, I mean, give India your requests and demands, how you see the problems there. So Honor, your description today was amazing. You gave your story, and this is a story that is there across the world, and you spelt it out so clearly. We have many webinars here. I've shared the link for the YouTube channel. If you go in there, there are many people who are present in the story. We had a discussion yesterday on galactagogues and the use of shatavari as a very important galactagogue. And when we take one simple example, this is indispensable for mankind. As long as we have mothers bearing children, and as long as mother's milk is important for the early stages of the child, there is always a problem. There is a problem of production of milk, and Ayurveda gives you some of the best the approaches for handling this. Now, if you take that simple idea and go across the world, so you take the concept of galactagogue and you go across the world, you will find the same problem. And how the problem is being tackled in Africa. You will find galactagogues used in Europe. Herbs are used in Europe. And you will find certain common herbs. Asparagus, we use shatavari is one species of asparagus. There's a different species of asparagus that's used in Italy and described for hundreds of years as a galactagogue. So there are areas where we can take one little example and we can take it around the world and provide advantages. So that discussion can be refined at this level. We can come back again, we can take one or two herbs and we can discuss these and help bring to closure a good project. And we say, here is shatavari, and it's being used as a galactagogue in India. What are your concerns? So, you know, what are the local people's concerns? Do people know about it, how it is used? We had two professors yesterday talking in such great detail with references from the text, how it is to be used. If Shatavari is not useful, what are the other formulations that can be used? So we can go into those kind of depths, and we can rehearse it many times till it is completely clear as to what is that one-page document we want to submit to the government. Saying, here is one example. It is safe to use, and on the back of that, you can open a dialogue. So I put another example here, Punarnava. It's a very, very important herb that benefits a lot of people. It goes into the area of asavams, fermented preparations. So you have another opportunity. It is not a herb that is uncommon. It is there in New Zealand. So the question might then be, can we take Punarnava as available in New Zealand and do something with it locally? So you might say, well, Punarnava grows here from this month to this month. We can harvest it in these islands. Can we start to prepare a Punarnava asavam, maybe a few hundred liters locally, you know, and get somebody from India to come into that project, and then ask questions about the GMP processes. What is the concern? You know, we want to see if we can make Punarnava asavam using New Zealand's GMP procedures. So once again, we can get, and there is a room for dialogue there, government to government dialogue. And then New Zealand government will come to India and say, well, we know that you're using this. This is a herb that's common to us. Can we interact to understand how to make this formulation? So that whole, people like Michael and Ajitji, you can enable that thing to happen locally. You can source the herbs. You can do those early preparations, or even say that we have these herbs here and we want to dialogue with India to understand how this is. The Punarnava asavam is such a magical herb. Let me relate one example from Germany. There was a gentleman who was not feeling very well into his 70s, and his daughter came to a practitioner in Germany and said, you know, what do I do here? And the practitioner of German origin, she was the president of the European Ayurveda Association, Dr. Graminger, Dr. Harsha Graminger. She said, well, here is what you can recommend, Punarnava asavam. Don't tell anything to your father, to your 70-plus-year-old father. Just give him Punarnava asavam and watch what happens. So this young lady took the asavam to the father and said, here is something, start using it. In about a month's time, the daughter couldn't believe that all the father's habits, you know, his snacking stopped, his smoking stopped, all those bad habits just kind of stopped. Now, here is a person who was not told about Punarnava. He was not told about how powerful this asavam can be, and the effects are seen. So these are universal things. There is something there. If you look at Punarnava and you look at the biochemistry of Punarnava and the molecular biology of Punarnava, and you can see how Punarnava acts on the mitochondria. There are published papers. I'll put at least one of the papers I can offer you here. It works. And when we talk about these herbs that are found locally, they are found in New Zealand. We can start some of those activities. So, and that gives us an opportunity to substantiate the dialogue, government to government dialogue. There is a lot of resistance in any society. If you take something new to any society, even if it is the best thing, if they haven't seen it before, the natural thing is to resist. We resist. Even if it is going to make you a millionaire or a billionaire or make you the healthiest person in the world, if it is not part of your system, the first thing you do is resist. It's just like a small child, see? And we have to go beyond that. And examples like what you have, examples of what's happening there, gives us an excuse to start that dialogue locally in the community. And then mature it to the next stage so that we say, okay, the Independent Research Ethics Society and the institute that Kamleshji was involved with, the National Institute of Ayurveda in Jaipur. These are all institutions that will come together. You know, we can close in very easily. We can put a lot of weight behind you. So if New Zealand says, we want to do this and we want to look at some local herbs, we got 2 or 3 herbs. I don't know if ashwagandha will grow there. Maybe it will. You know, we'll try and come together, crystallize few of these small areas. Examples like what Honor has described. You know, I'm sure, Honor, there are many more people. You are helping people now. You can easily put together a small list, say 10, 20 cases. I know Ajitji's students have to do projects, and he has shown me some of his projects done to such level of detail in terms of how the dietary detailing before treatment and what the changes are. We can put all this together to make a very substantial case where the governments will have to come together in a discussion. Now, these discussions can be brought under a slightly wider umbrella. New Zealand is part of the Commonwealth of Nations. I have put in here the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Indian Traditional Sciences from the UK Parliament, we are doing a lot to make that Commonwealth dialogue happen. So once you come together and we start to maneuver in that space where there is a more than good enough justification for why nations must come together, I think we are in a much stronger position. So we will bring governments to discuss on these things, but I think we must do our bit of homework and make it not just tempting enough, but force the issue. And we can force the issue. We can bring, you know, in here itself, we have the agencies who can do the trialing and the testing. And what Pavanji said is very correct. Zandu is a very large company with a very large research base. And maybe that could be a reason, you know, to how to bring GMP groups from New Zealand and India under the umbrella of Zandu, for instance. You know. So there are many ways in which we can do. But if we do this incompletely or prematurely, then we don't get the effect we want to see. So Ajitji, the way I would phrase this is, let us do our homework a little bit. Let us bring together those case studies, case interests from both sides, and bring this together, and then present it to the government as a draft, not as the final request, for their comments on both sides. Prepare the ground. It's a lot of work to get the correct route from your side would be to connect with the High Commission, the Indian High Commission, and open a dialogue there, saying this is what we have. Is this good enough? Go to the High Commissioner and say, is this good enough for interaction between the governments? The Ministry of External Affairs have their own priorities, you know, and whatever we are offering must fit in with their priorities. We must become politically sensitive to those kind of issues. And once we do all this, and once we take on the expertise of places like the National Institute of Ayurveda in Jaipur, the old collection of learned scholars in the old schools from West Bengal, from Guwahati, from the National Institute of the newly formed All India Institute of Ayurveda in Delhi, we will have enough clout to show that our case is correct, well structured, and there is a reason why governments must start talking. So one last example before I finish. All India Institute of Ayurveda is now in connection with the Tropical Medicine Institute. I will send the link here in London on a COVID problem. And they are looking at ashwagandha and trying to understand how ashwagandha might be a prophylactic and how it will help you have better resistance to withstand COVID-19. It's a big issue. And the study was inspired by a small study in All India Institute of Ayurveda in Delhi, where they gave ashwagandha to 80,000 frontline workers, the policemen of all the police, the entire police force of New Delhi were given ashwagandha as a study. But doing the analysis, grabbing the data is a very difficult task. And so they have come together between UK and India on the basis of that study, on the basis of what was happening in Delhi, and of course other demands too, to bring the governments together at the governmental level. And that was a good enough reason to get the Indian government and the UK government to come together to make that happen. So there are many things happening here. Pawanji, one last example, in 2018, April, when we have the Commonwealth Leaders Summit here in the UK, we had Prime Minister Modi along with Prince Charles, His Highness, Prince of Wales. They set up an Ayurveda Center of Excellence. So the paperwork for an Ayurveda Center of Excellence is already in place. New Zealand is part of the Commonwealth of Nations. We can very easily dip into those kind of opportunities and pull out something that will reinforce our request for government-to-government interaction. So there are many threads we can bring together, but most important and most exciting is that we are here today talking about this possibility. And so I want to thank Pawanji, I want to thank Bishnuji for bringing you people here to the forum. And over the next few months, we will bring many other nations together. We already have people from America, we will bring people from South America, we'll bring people from other parts of the world into this dialogue. And I think when we mature it to a point where there are examples from different locations. Argentina, for instance, Jorge Berra, he's a pediatrician. He runs a big school in Argentina, and he's also recognized as an Ayush professor in Argentina. Maybe we can raise all these things and demand an Ayush professorship in New Zealand, for instance. You know, there are many ways in which we can open up this story. There are many, many things. But what is important is we build it correctly. We build all the blocks together and we place the blocks together. As they say, getting ducks in a row, you know, and we get all the ducks arranged, and then things will become much, much easier. So thank you, Pawanji, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Ajitji, for being with us. You know a lot of people in India, you know a lot of people here in Europe, and we follow your work. We admire the work that you do for New Zealand and Australia. Thanks, Michael, for sharing with us what you wanted, what you showed us today. And honor deeply ended to your presentation, your personal experience, that you came out and you shared this with us. And I wish you are with us with future events, and I wish you will take time to look through the recordings of what Pawanji already has, and you will find a lot of very detailed information there. It's just a case of finding the time to sit and watch those videos, especially the one yesterday on galactagogues. It's very, very exciting how it came out and what the discussions were. So, namaskar, thank you very much. I've taken more time than I should have, but it's always exciting to talk about these things. Thank you, Pawanji.
Sir, I'm very much fortunate that you and Dr. Ajit has opened a new arena for me, that we will compile SWOT analysis of every country through their expert, number one, and their desires from our government. So we can be, we would be able to compile all these for 50 countries, and that will be a great contribution for all the global system of Ayush, that we will be able to communicate that to our ministry, Ayush Ministry and External Affairs Ministry. Thank you, both of you.
Pawanji, I just want to add one more comment which I forgot, which is if you look at Ajitji's student projects, at some point Ajitji will share us the student projects that they do. The level of detail and the level of clarity that is there in his student projects, sometimes I feel is better than our MD thesis. So Ajitji, we at some point, I hope you will share with us, we will come together again, share in some detail your the student project work that you do, and you will see the level of detail and the effect, simple interventions, what Michael mentioned and what Ajitji mentioned about food is medicine, and what Honor gave us, how to use food effectively, how to move away from health detrimental foods and move into health promoting foods, and understand how health can be had from food.
Excellent, sir. Excellent, sir. We are very much fortunate today that second wing of Ayush, Unani, Director of Unani Central Research Institute, Dr. Yunus Munshi ji is also with us. Please share your valuable experiences, Dr. Yunus Munshi ji. Welcome.
Namaskar to everybody. Namaskar to everybody. Good afternoon.
Namaskar, sir.
It is my pleasure to be with the stalwarts of Ayurveda and who are propagating our traditional medicine in the globally in different countries. So my concern in this is that different chairs, chair of Ayurveda, chair of Unani in different countries. What has been outcome of those chairs? That should be definitely be public, that whether they are fruitful to the to our traditional medicine, to our Ayurveda for propagation, etc. And number two, that various organizations are conducting some programs in different countries for Indian system of medicine. So is it that foreigners will teach us the Indian system of medicine? Is it like that? There are a lot of organizations who have groomed up for coming and luring our fraternity over here in India to enroll themselves in different courses internationally. Whether that is feasible, that is good thing or not. To my mind, Indian system of medicine can be taught by the Indians who are practicing Indian system of medicine. Let it be Ayurveda, let it be Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy. We have the fraternity internationally, presence of our fraternity internationally in different countries. Instead of those foreigners, those who are working there, instead of those, if these people like Dr. Madan, etc., can come up with some courses which will be equal to this international standards, that will be very much better. This is my concern. That's all what I can. And number two, Dr. Pawan, I am not director. I am deputy director yet. I am regional director to this institute. Although I am heading the institute, I am not director, but I am now deputy director of CCREO and working as head of the institute at RRM Calcutta. Thank you very much.
My blessings are there. You would be very soon director of this institute.
Thank you. Thank you for good wishes. Thank you for good wishes.
So I would like to invite.
Would I have just 1 minute to respond to Eunice G's comment about developing courses?
Sure, sir.
Thank
Sure,
you.
sir.
Thank you, Pawanji. Thank you. Eunice Ji, namaskar. Thank you for being with us today. I think your comment is well taken, that it will be wonderful to bring people to India to do courses and for the courses to be taught by Indian instructors, particularly in the very specialized areas. I think that is the only way it will happen. There is an opportunity for the basics to be introduced by people like Ajit Ji and Michael and Honor, who know what is needed in a local population. I think it will be too much to do that basic instructions in India, but as we get students who are a little more conversant with some of the terms and terminology, especially in Ayurveda, or if we go into very special and very elegant areas like Unani medicine, where we have to not only understand the entire logic, but we also have to understand the old texts in Arabic or Farsi. It becomes an additional challenge, but I think it will happen. It will happen where, like what is happening with Sanskrit, where people are understanding things, where we will come to a way to make people aware of the beauty of Ayurvedic Unani formulations. In our last interaction, we talked briefly about Arkezib. And it takes a lot of experience for people to see the connection between the herbs used in the 3 herbs, camphor, pudina, mint, and the 3rd herb,
Ajwain.
that is used. These are all herbs commonly used in both the systems, but it'll take a little while before we can. So I agree completely with your point. That is the correct way, where we bring students from around the world to India. But I don't know how early in that process we can do. I think maybe Michael can tell us, or Honor can tell us, what are the challenges they face when they try to understand Ayurveda for the first time, and where they are in that journey. I think what Michael said was very interesting, that everybody is still learning. There are new terms you hear, I would love to hear a few comments from both, maybe from Michael and maybe also from Honor, about Eunice G's comment that we bring people to India to study Ayurveda, etc. And my comment that it will be best if they came for a formal course instead of the early courses, early understanding of Ayurveda, and that might be best delivered locally. I don't know if Michael wants to add to this, or whether Honor wants to add to this, because you've experienced Ayurveda in New Zealand. Would it have been too early to come to India to experience what you experienced and the interest that's generated locally?
Certainly, Madanji, would be always opportunities to learn are always welcomed. I certainly think that the courses that we have here in Australasia have provided a good foundation for practice. The Dr. Ajit structured these courses to equip practitioners. He's given us a therapeutic toolbox that I think is excellent. And as you mentioned, the quality of the diagnosis that the students prepare shows the depth of their knowledge. Perhaps for me at this stage, it's I find that building the confidence in my practice is what I'm enjoying. I mean, there's always room to learn and grow, but applying what I've learned, what I have seen in the past is, certainly in the West, there's a hunger for knowledge, but sometimes then in doing that, you don't appreciate the strength of what you've been given. And so for me, I'm very happy working with what I've learned, because I see the results, and as I become a bit more confident, or maybe see that there are gaps in my knowledge, I would certainly be looking to study further. Honor, did you?
Honor would.
I mean, I'm such a beginner in this company. I think my view is that Ayurveda in New Zealand is very young, and when I was working with Dr. Ajit, when Dr. Ajit was teaching me, I was really keen to go to the next level, but there were not enough people here to go to that next level for him to even provide that in New Zealand. So my gut feeling is that maybe New Zealand as a country is just too young. It's trying to provide what Dr. Ajit is offering here at that level in this country, and getting more practitioners or getting more people to learn here. I think that that's probably the challenge that we're at the moment in this country.
Michael, Honor, and Ajit Ji, do you think this is responding to Eunice G's comment? Eunice G's comment is very important, and just responding to that, do you feel that the time is right for discussing Ayurveda in the medical schools, because there's so many well-established medical schools in New Zealand? Is that one way to satisfy Eunice G's suggestion about courses, formal courses? Is there possibility for India and New Zealand to come together to ask a simple question? Why can't we have Ayush systems as part of the university course, as part of the formal education system, medical education system? Because I know in New Zealand, you place a lot of emphasis on your traditional medical system, on the Maori system. And I know the students have to attend courses in all your medical universities on the Maori understanding worldview of health and how it's understood. I'm just wondering if it is too early to bring in Ayurveda and Ayush systems into that kind of an environment. Michael? Or
Please, Dr. Sharma has to go after concluding remarks.
Ajitji, unmute.
So, we will be keeping next webinar on this point only, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that will be, I think there is a very good discussion what has been happening. And again, our point was to share with you our view that what we are facing opportunities as well as difficulties. And I'm sure all countries will have their own viewpoint, and learners like Madanji and Pavanji, you all are putting effort together. And that's where the second series of discussion should come up, and it will bring up these kind of discussions more, that what kind of things can be done. And that might be something. But when we talk about bringing Ayurveda to the medical colleges and like that, it's too early at this stage to come up, right? It's a good dream for us to see, but in near future, it is something not possible, but it will be possible when I think is again bigger scale of the things start happening from a higher level. And that's where the way the world is coming up. But I think it's premature for us to get into that discussions as far as Australia, New Zealand. There are now, because the courses, as I said, that we have these courses officially approved, but they are at a wet level. Then the universities level degrees and other things will come up, which will be another, say, 10, 15 years away so far. But I think it's a very good discussion today. We appreciate
the chairs established by Ministry of Ayush in different countries. Chair of Ayurveda, chair of Unani, they are offering the courses. No? Those chairs have been established to offer the courses in Ayurveda and Unani. Are they functioning properly or not? Is there any lacking? If you can advise something additional to that, to the ministry, that this something should be included in these courses what you offer through the chairs in different countries. So these things are to be discussed. Let there be separate session for that. I request Dr. Pavanji, since he
Definitely,
can
definitely we will arrange that. With each country, we will definitely, this is new idea for us. What can we join venture of two countries? This will be our new topic of the discussion. Definitely, I welcome your suggestion.
I think that's why we should invite those who are heading the chairs in different countries. We should invite those people also, so that they can guide, they can give their inputs.
Right, very right, you are very right.
Thank you very much.
Now I would like to request Dr. Vishnu Prasad Sharma ji for his concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar. Respected Professor Dr. Madan Thangavalu, respected Professor Kamlesh Sharmaji, respected Dr. S. Ajit Singh, eminent speaker, audience, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I offer my sincere thanks to Dr. S. Ajit Singh for inaugurating today's webinar and delivered a wonderful talk. He gives stress to apply traditional holistic approach in Ayurveda. Again, he raised some points to discuss with Ayush Ministry. He refers to Professor Dr. Madan Thangavalu, Pavan Sharmaji. So I offer my sincere thanks to Dr. S. Ajit Singh for inaugurating today's webinar and wonderful talk. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Honor Stratton for wonderful talk. Thank you, madam, for your excellent talk. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Michael McDonald for excellent talk, and he nicely described how people can do practice there and how we can develop Ayurveda. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Dr. Pawan Sharma for organizing such a beautiful webinar. Thank you to all. Namaskar.
Thank you, experts on the dice, off the dice. Thank you, Samadur, Shivani, Atanu from my team, who are Darshit Joshi, who are in the background, no doubt, to make these programs successful. Welcome. Thank you. And please join us today and day by day, forever. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.